Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I draw the Chamber's attention to my entry in the Register of Members' Interests, my shareholding in Bridgen Investments, a company which generates considerable volumes of green electricity. This estimates debate is extremely important, especially considering how lively the debate is within the field of climate science, not necessarily reflected in the Chamber today. The effects on population who are already struggling with their energy bills, the growing public awareness of doommongers with their deadlines that never actually come to pass, the extreme sacrifices being forced on all of us, which may be futile in the face of China, Russia and India, who are continuing to increase their use of fossil fuels enormously. It appears the government's taking one side of a scientific argument and once again declaring it as an unchallengeable fact. The honourable member for Bath, who is clearly is no longer in her place, is clearly a champion of wind and solar technology, and there is clearly a place for those technologies. But the question I wanted to ask her, which she refused my intervention, perhaps the Minister in his summing up will help her out. Could someone in the Chamber explain, on those cold, long winter nights when the wind doesn't blow, if we're relying on solar and wind power, what is going to keep our houses warm and our industry running? Madam Deputy Speaker, the fact is that the UK accounts for less than 1% of global emissions. And on this basis, we are voluntarily rejecting entire established industries which have been proven to work, proven to keep us warm, fed and sheltered. We're asked to reject these for the fantasies of Just Stop oil protesters and Leonardo DiCaprio-esque climate scientists. We're asked to reject these for technologies which either don't yet exist or have not been proven at scale. Not only can the government not prove many of the concepts we've heard about, whether fusion reactors, I seem to remember for the last 40 years they've always been 20 years ago, and had I had a chance to ask the right honourable gentleman, I think we'd find that we're still 20 years away even today. So we're being asked to reject these technologies. They don't even exist. They're not proven at scale. And not only can the government not explain exactly what technologies we're going to use, but they can't give us an accurate estimate of what it's all going to cost. There are some estimates that this is, the drive to net zero could cost a trillion pounds, or some estimates are £3 trillion. If we go on the lower side, £1,000 billion, Madam Deputy Speaker. All this slammed on the overdraft of the generations to follow us. I'm not sure they're going to thank us. The only certainty, as with all failed experiments, is that when the bill comes in, it will be the people that will have to pay, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I'm reminded of that beacon of government planning and procurement, or more accurately, the white elephant is regarded as HS2, and here we go again, Madam Deputy Speaker. It appears the government is using the same behavioural science tactics that have been relied on recently, yet they sell us a storm in our teacups. And we've seen it again and again, and the answer is to make it scary and make it soon. We saw it with acid rain, we saw it with the ozone layer, we saw it with Al Gore. Voters have seen government ministers alongside Greta Thunberg, and they see her 5-year prediction that by now humanity would cease to have existed. We've been wiped out. She's deleted that tweet, by the way, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm afraid there is an inconvenient truth, and that the net zero legislatures are desperate to hide from it. Renewables, wind, solar alone. Energy security is so important, and it relies on diversity and diversity alone, but renewables are not going to be able to supply the certainty of supply for our homes and for our industry of the future. I certainly will.
Making a thought-provoking speech. The point he makes there about solar and wind, does he not accept that there are other technologies, for example tidal, that can offer a greater degree of certainty and indeed the ability for the network and for the grid to actually plan the generations that it can produce?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention. And yes, we have discussed the benefits of potential tidal energy. We have huge tidal ranges in the UK, some of the largest tidal ranges in the world. But that technology is not here now. It's not going to keep the lights on when Ratcliffe-on-Soar Power Station, which is just outside my constituency, a coal-powered power station, one of the last in the country, when that's decommissioned in 18 months' time, we're not going to have tidal energy to take up that slack, unfortunately, Madam Deputy Speaker. Esteemed colleagues in both houses have pointed out the current plan is wasteful, damaging and maybe ill thought out. The only thing for certain is if we carry on down the legally binding route of net zero the government have set for us, our people will become poorer, colder and less free. Another prime example of we know what's best and we're going to tell you, we're going to get on with it. And quite honestly, that level of governance, the people are getting sick of it, Madam Deputy Speaker. A day after the 4th of July, and we remember Benjamin Franklin's words, "In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except for death and taxes." Well, there's certainly going to be more taxes, Madam Deputy Speaker, to pay for this one. He missed out on authoritarian zealots looking to dictate every aspect of our lives. In the last 100 years, if they've taught us anything, they should have taught us we should always be wary of those who turn down the gaslights and tell us that our suspicions are all in our heads. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Siobhan Bailey.
Madam Deputy.